Hello, YouTube. My name is Jonathan, and yes, you're on the right channel. I know this is a little bit departure from what we usually talk about concerning advertisements and marketing, but it's related, and I'm going to tell you why. So recently, I was notified, as many people were, about the discontinuance of maintenance and updates for Windows 10. I've had this Windows 10 machine, which I built myself since 2018. Good riddance. I won't miss these updates just all the time, wanting to update, shut down your system, lose work, which I know that's my responsibility to save it, but it shouldn't be. It should just run because it's my machine. I don't like some corporation having access to it all the time, but yet they do. And they keep adding new stuff and breaking things. And I'm just over it. I'm not going to make the switch to Windows 11, despite the corralling of the masses into that system. I was able to test drive that on my father-in-law's computer, which is rather hefty when it comes to horsepower, and it was so slow, just unbelievably slow. And I have no desire to get on board with Copilot or anything like that. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm planning my escape. By probably the first part of the next year, I'm going to be switched over. This machine will be Linux distro. I think I've got that picked out, but it brought to mind some things. Number one, I have had difficulty making that leap in the past because Linux is difficult to get your head around. All Unix systems are, especially coming from Windows and not having been taught, just having to learn it piecemeal, by, grasping for it. Now, you may think, well, perhaps, Jonathan, you're just a dense person, not that intelligent. Well, I've got 3 college degrees and I'm a professional mechanical engineer. So if I struggle with it, I have to imagine that others struggle with it as well. I'm not below average intelligence. That's not my doing. It's just a blessing from God. But it's still it's a little bit of a leap to go to Linux, because here's the thing: when it comes to technology, you need it to work, and you need it to work now. And no one ever, well, few people sit around and think about, man, I wonder how my technology and my computer and my software could just be better for my effectiveness. Now, if you're a developer, you do think that way. But if you're the common person that uses Excel, Word, and sends emails, that's not really your forefront. This is a means to an end. Thinking about how you interact with your computer isn't something that the majority of public does. They just will take whatever's given to them and say, man, this is nice. I guess this is all I have. They won't search for anything else. So that's the reason I want to talk about this, because marketing has a lot to do with why Linux is not on every single desktop. The Unix and Linux system, BSD, all that is the majority of servers in the world. Yet it's not in the home computer. There's a reason, and I want to discover that. All right, so why has Windows and Apple taken over so much market share? And yes, I know Apple is technically a Unix system, but really it's not to most people. And the reason it's taken over so much market share is, number one, it's intuitive. It's easy to grasp, it's easy to learn, and if there is any questions, there are tons of other people to help you that have the same technical starting point as you that you can interact with, and basically lots of documentation in every single form. And it's well done with plenty of examples. I can go on YouTube if I have a question about some sort of Apple program, and there will be 400 videos on how to do that from various degrees of explanation and detail. That's great. If I go and do that with Linux, I'm going to stumble across some developer or somebody in their basement that is way above my head on the learning curve of Linux, and they're starting off at a point to where I can't enter in with them. I can't join them. I don't know what you're doing right now on the screen. How'd you even get there? You need to explain it to me like I'm a Cocker Spaniel. And sadly, most developers and most Linux users do not do that. They do not. I'll get to that in a second. Now, the other thing I want to cover is marketing. Apple, Windows, huge marketing pushes. Huge. They have a large market share. They want to maintain it, and they have entire marketing departments dedicated to ensure that they maintain it. They flood the market to where you don't believe there's anything else available to you, and they've done a good job at it. So between their programs, the fact that they're intuitive, the fact that there's so much documentation, whether it's actual documents, videos, examples, and the fact that they have huge marketing budgets and marketing pushes, it's going to be hard to overcome that. Now, this is where Linux suffers, and I've alluded to this so far in this video. The learning curve is hard. Just starting out, what's a distribution? How do I download it? Oh, it didn't go right. You know, even people that are experienced, sometimes they'll take their ISO file and it won't necessarily go correctly. I think I had to try 3 times to get Pop! OS on a laptop. It doesn't always work. And when you come into something new and you have nothing but problems, you give up, quit, and leave. And I imagine there's lots of people, lots of old jump drives sitting in desks that have ISO files on there where people tried Linux and said, this isn't for me, this is too hard, this crap don't work, and I'm done. And they just leave, and they don't come back. And who can blame them? So the learning curve is hard. The other thing is there's no marketing push. With it all being open source, there's no one really to market these softwares, operating systems, so be it. And just to give you an example, you know, I came to the knowledge of Vim about 2 months ago. You know, I'm almost 40, and I just now learned about Vim. What an amazing program. I found out that the guy that was keeping track of all that has recently passed on, so I went on and switched to NeoVim. I've had some experience in teaching myself how to code in Python, so the whole entire Lua language was a little bit new. But it took me 3 or 4 weeks to get up to speed on how to even configure all of that stuff. And it was me dedicating my time and mental energy to try to figure it out. Now, I finally got it to where I want it, pretty much. There's still improvements I want to make, but it took a while, and I'm still learning new things. You have to want to learn this stuff. You have to want to learn Linux, grep, all these different commands. You have to want to learn how to live in the terminal. And most people aren't interested in that. They're not. They just want something that's functional and works. And what's the easiest way I can get there? You know, I too, and one of the reasons I'm planning my escape so far in advance, even though it's still several months away, is my patience when it comes to software is small, very small. I get frustrated very easily with software. I have patience for my children. I have patience for my wife. My patience for software is not there. So that's one of the reasons I gave myself a runway of almost a year to get up to speed and start planning my escape program by program. What am I going to need? How's it going to work? What's the configuration file? How do I set this up? And I'm doing all that now. Most people aren't going to do that. They're either going to make the decision and try it, or they're not. And if they do and it fails, they leave. So my advice to all the Linux evangelists, including Vim, NeoVim, everything out there, is your documentation is your marketing. That's it. That's all you're going to have. When someone runs into a problem, they're going to look at your documentation. If it is poor, if it is above their skill level, they are going to be done and they're going to leave. I'm an engineer. I know how you developers feel in a sense. When I go and build a project, I have pride in it. I expect the rest of the world to recognize the greatness that I have achieved, and I expect them to be at a level of understanding when they try to utilize what I have built. If they are not, who needs them? That is the wrong attitude. That is the wrong attitude. Everyone in the Linux community who is GitHub, everybody on GitHub, listen to me right now. Your attitude is poor and it is incorrect. Your README files, your manuals need to be written so thoroughly that a Cocker Spaniel, a monkey with a lobotomy, can figure out how to go from 0 to 100 through the course of that documentation. It needs to have copious amounts of examples. You need to lead people by the hand. You need to make videos, links in your documentation to the videos. It needs to be thorough. You need to spend more time on the documentation than you did on the actual building of the program and the software. And everyone that I'm saying this to right now is not going to do it. You're wrong for not doing it. The only way that Unix, Linux, and these software programs are going to get more utilized, the only way that you're going to save more people from the Windows and Apple stranglehold is to make it to where they can easily understand what is happening and actually do it. Your documentation is your marketing, and you are failing miserably. I hope I have other people, other channels, grab hold of this video and beat that point to death right there. It needs to be beaten like a dead horse. Your documentation is poor, you're arrogant, and it must be fixed. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Cruise around the channel, see what you think about marketing, and see if you can learn something. Hope to see you soon. Later.